On April 22, 2023, officers from the Beach Police Department rushed to a residence after receiving a 911 call about a child left unattended. Concerned neighbors had observed the child repeatedly slamming on a window from inside the house, raising alarms about the child's safety and well-being. Upon arrival, officers found the door locked and the child visibly distressed. The urgent situation prompted them to gain entry into the home. Inside, they discovered a young child alone, without any adult supervision. The officers quickly assessed the environment to ensure the child was unharmed, while also searching for any signs of danger or neglect. After securing the child and confirming their safety, the police initiated an investigation to locate the child's guardians. They reached out to local child protective services to ensure that appropriate measures would be taken to safeguard the child's welfare moving forward. The swift response of the Beach Police Department not only highlighted their commitment to community safety, but also underscored the importance of vigilance among neighbors in protecting vulnerable individuals. Initial response and discovery. Upon arrival at the scene, officers from the Beach Police Department approached the residence and knocked on the door, their hearts heavy with concern. When no one answered, a wave of apprehension washed over them as they realized the gravity of the situation. The possibility of a young child left alone in potentially hazardous conditions loomed large. With time slipping away and no indication that anyone was home, they knew they had to act quickly to ensure the child's safety. Body-worn camera footage captured the poignant moments as the officers took decisive action. They cautiously entered the residence, their senses heightened and alert to any potential dangers. What awaited them inside was a harrowing scene that would haunt them long after the incident. In a dimly lit room, they found a child approximately 1 to 2 years old, surrounded by signs of neglect and squalor. The child, visibly dirty and malnourished, was banging on a window, desperately seeking attention and care that had clearly been absent for far too long. Sergeant Johnson, one of the officers on the scene, recalled the initial moments vividly. "We found him alone in a room, just banging on the window. It was heartbreaking. He looked scared, confused, but mostly desperate for someone to notice him." The image of the child's frightened face, framed by the grime of neglect, became etched in the minds of the responding officers. They immediately recognized the urgency of their mission, to protect a vulnerable life that had been left to fend for itself. The room itself told a story of abandonment. Piles of dirty laundry lay strewn across the floor, and scattered toys, some broken and others coated in dust, hinted at a once happy playtime that had long since faded. A strong odor of stale food and uncleanliness permeated the air, making it clear that the environment was far from safe. Flies buzzed around, adding to the dismal atmosphere and reinforcing the notion that the child had been left unattended for an extended period. The officers noted the stark contrast between the child's innocent curiosity and the grim reality of his surroundings. As they approached the child, the officers maintained a calm demeanor, speaking softly to reassure him. "Hey there, buddy, you're safe now. We're here to help you," Officer Thompson gently said, kneeling down to the child's level. The child looked up, his wide eyes filled with a mixture of fear and uncertainty. Despite his dire circumstances, a flicker of hope seemed to ignite within him as he registered the presence of these caring figures. Recognizing the immediate need for intervention, the officers quickly called for backup and for the involvement of Child Protective Services. They understood that the situation required not only their immediate attention but also a comprehensive response to ensure the child's well-being moving forward. As they waited for additional assistance, they carefully assessed the living conditions of the home, documenting everything they observed. In the meantime, Officer Thompson stayed by the child's side, engaging him in light conversation to help ease his fears. "What's your name, little man?" he asked. The child, still unsure but encouraged by the officer's gentle tone, managed to whisper, "Mikey." The simple exchange created a bond of trust, providing Mikey with a glimmer of reassurance in the midst of chaos. As the minutes passed, the gravity of the situation began to sink in for the officers. This wasn't just a routine call, it was a profound reminder of the vulnerabilities that some children face in their own homes. Mikey's plight was emblematic of a larger issue that plagues society. Instances where the most innocent among us are left to navigate the harsh realities of life without the support and care they so desperately need. Finally, backup arrived, bringing with them social workers and additional police personnel trained to handle such delicate situations. The officers briefed the new arrivals on what they had witnessed, ensuring that everyone was aware of the urgency and sensitivity of the matter. Together, they formulated a plan to remove Mikey from the hazardous environment and ensure that he received the care he needed. As they prepared to escort Mikey out of the house, the child's expression shifted from fear to confusion. He clung to Officer Thompson's hand, seeking comfort and reassurance. "You're going to be okay, Mikey. We're going to take you somewhere safe," Officer Thompson said, offering a comforting smile. The transition from his chaotic home to an unfamiliar world was daunting, but with each word, the officers hoped to instill a sense of safety in the frightened child. Once outside, the officers led Mikey to a waiting vehicle. They ensured that he was comfortable and secure, surrounded by caring professionals who would take him to a safe environment where his needs would be met. As the officers closed the car door, they couldn't shake the feeling of sadness that lingered in their hearts. This experience was a stark reminder of the importance of community vigilance and the role that each person plays in safeguarding the welfare of children like Mikey. In the days that followed, the Beach Police Department continued to work closely with Child Protective Services to ensure Mikey's well-being. The incident sparked conversations within the community about the importance of awareness and intervention in cases of potential child neglect. Mikey's story became a catalyst for change, highlighting the need for collective action to protect vulnerable children and raise awareness about the signs of neglect. Ultimately, the officers' quick response and dedication to Mikey's safety not only provided him with a chance for a better future, but also served as a powerful reminder of the duty we all have to watch over the youngest and most innocent members of our society. Through their efforts, they demonstrated that no child should ever have to endure such hardship alone, and that compassion and vigilance can pave the way for healing and hope. Immediate care and concerns. Despite the officers' shock at the scene, their training kicked in as they prioritized the child's immediate needs. Officer Ramirez, who carefully picked up the child, noted he was filthy, covered in who knows what. "We had to clean him up right there. It was clear he needed medical attention beyond what we could provide." Recognizing the urgency of the situation, the officers sprang into action. They gently assessed Mikey's condition, looking for any visible injuries or signs of distress. As Officer Ramirez held the child in his arms, he felt the slight tremble of Mikey's body, a clear indication of fear and uncertainty. The officers knew they needed to act quickly, not only to clean the child but to comfort him in what was undoubtedly a traumatic moment. While waiting for emergency medical services (EMS) to arrive, the officers comforted Mikey, speaking softly and reassuringly to help alleviate his fears. Officer Thompson knelt beside them, his tone soothing as he said, "You're safe with us, buddy. We're going to help you." They provided Mikey with a clean blanket from the car and offered him water, carefully monitoring how he responded to their efforts. The warmth of the blanket and the gentleness of their touch helped to quell some of his anxiety, even if only momentarily. In an attempt to clean him up, Officer Ramirez found a pack of wipes in his gear. As he gently wiped Mikey's face and hands, he noted the layers of dirt and grime that had accumulated. "It was heartbreaking to see him like this," he later recalled in an interview. "We knew we had to do whatever we could to make him comfortable until help arrived." Their concern for Mikey's well-being was palpable, and it was clear that the officers were not just performing their duties, they were genuinely invested in ensuring the child felt safe. Their voices trembled with emotion as they discussed what they had found and the urgency of getting him proper medical care. "We knew he needed help fast," Officer Ramirez explained. "It wasn't just about cleaning him up. He looked sickly, like he hadn't eaten properly in a while. His environment was not suitable for any child." As the minutes dragged on, the officers remained vigilant, monitoring Mikey for any signs of distress. They exchanged worried glances, each officer feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on them. The neglect and abandonment Mikey had experienced were stark reminders of the larger systemic issues that often went unaddressed. Finally, the sound of sirens pierced the air, bringing with it a sense of relief. EMS arrived on the scene, and the officers briefed the medical team on their findings. They shared their observations about Mikey's physical condition and the squalor of his living environment, ensuring that the medical professionals had all the information they needed to provide immediate care. The EMS personnel quickly assessed Mikey, checking for any injuries and asking the officers for details about the child's behavior and physical state. The EMTs recognized the signs of neglect and immediately took charge of the situation, providing Mikey with the care he desperately needed. They assured him that he was going to be okay, speaking in calming tones as they tended to him. As the medics worked, Officer Thompson remained close by, watching over Mikey as he received treatment. The bond that had formed between the officers and the child was evident. They had become his protectors in a moment of vulnerability. "It was difficult to see him go through this, but I knew we had done everything we could to help him," Officer Thompson reflected later. Once Mikey was stabilized and prepared for transport, the officers took a moment to gather their thoughts. The scene had been chaotic and filled with emotions, but their swift response had made a difference. They felt a sense of purpose, knowing they had intervened at a critical moment in the child's life. As the EMS team loaded Mikey into the ambulance, the officers stood back, reflecting on the gravity of the situation they had just navigated. They knew that their job extended beyond enforcing the law. It was about protecting the most vulnerable members of the community. Mikey's case would leave a lasting impact on each officer, shaping their understanding of the complexities surrounding child welfare and neglect. In the aftermath of the incident, the Beach Police Department launched an internal review to address how they could better respond to situations involving vulnerable children. They recognized the importance of training that focused on identifying signs of neglect and ensuring appropriate interventions. The incident sparked discussions within the department and the broader community about the role of law enforcement in safeguarding children and the need for collaboration with social services to address such urgent matters. Mikey's story served as a reminder that vigilance and compassion are essential in the pursuit of justice and care for children. The officer's quick response not only provided immediate relief for a scared child, but also catalyzed changes that would ultimately help protect other vulnerable individuals in their community. In the months that followed, the department worked to forge stronger partnerships with child welfare organizations, ensuring that no child would face such neglect alone. As the officers moved forward in their careers, they carried with them the lessons learned from that day. They became advocates for awareness and prevention, sharing Mikey's story in community outreach programs aimed at educating others about the signs of child neglect and the importance of intervention. Each officer knew that, while they couldn't save every child, their commitment to protecting the most vulnerable would remain steadfast. Medical assessment and further action. When EMS arrived, the child was carefully transferred into their care. Paramedics conducted a thorough assessment, revealing concerning signs of neglect and possible health issues related to his living conditions. They noted malnutrition, skin conditions, and the psychological distress evident in his behavior. The atmosphere was tense yet focused as the paramedics quickly worked to stabilize the child for transport. Dr. Emily Sanchez, the attending physician at the scene, commented on the child's condition. He was dehydrated, malnourished, and had signs of neglect all over him. It was heartbreaking to see a child in such a state. Her expertise and compassion shone through as she carefully examined Mikey, noting the various indicators of neglect that had taken a toll on his young body and mind. Each finding underscored the urgency of their mission to provide immediate care. The decision was made to transport the child to the nearest hospital for further evaluation and treatment. The officers accompanied him, ensuring he received the attention and care he desperately needed. We knew that staying with him would help him feel safe during this traumatic experience, Officer Ramirez stated. The officers climbed into the ambulance, maintaining a presence of reassurance for Mikey, who remained fearful and uncertain about the unfolding events. As they made their way to the hospital, the paramedics continued to monitor Mikey's vital signs, ensuring he was stable during the ride. They provided him with fluids to address his dehydration and comforted him with gentle words. The officers, while also alert to the procedural aspects of the situation, took turns speaking to Mikey, letting him know he was safe. "You're going to be okay. We're right here with you," Officer Thompson assured him, hoping to alleviate some of the child's distress. Upon arrival at the hospital, the paramedics quickly briefed the medical team about Mikey's condition, detailing the signs of neglect and the immediate care he had received. The staff sprang into action, initiating a more comprehensive evaluation and treatment plan. They recognized the seriousness of the situation and began to address the myriad of health issues that Mikey was facing. In addition to providing medical care, the hospital staff worked to create a safe environment for Mikey, recognizing the emotional toll that neglect can take on a child. Child life specialists were brought in to engage Mikey through play therapy and comforting activities, helping him to process his experience. Dr. Sanchez emphasized, "We must not only address the physical issues, but also provide emotional support. Healing a child like Mikey requires a holistic approach." As the officers watched the hospital staff interact with Mikey, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. Their mission had evolved from immediate intervention to ensuring that the child received the long-term care he needed to recover from his traumatic experience. They understood that Mikey's journey was just beginning, but they were hopeful that the combined efforts of the medical team and law enforcement could lead to a positive outcome. Simultaneously, while Mikey was receiving care, the officers began to gather information about the circumstances leading to his neglect. They reached out to local child protective services to initiate an investigation into the child's home environment. It was crucial to understand the factors that contributed to his situation to ensure not only Mikey's safety, but also that of any other children who might be affected. As they worked diligently, the officers felt a sense of responsibility that extended beyond their duties. They knew they were part of a larger system aimed at protecting vulnerable children like Mikey and preventing similar situations in the future. This case would serve as a catalyst for broader discussions within the department about child welfare and the importance of collaboration with social services. The experience left a lasting impact on the officers, shaping their perspective on the complexities surrounding child neglect and the urgent need for community awareness and action. They remained in contact with the hospital, following Mikey's progress closely and advocating for the support he would need moving forward. Each step of the process was a reminder of the importance of vigilance and compassion in safeguarding the well-being of children in their community. Investigation and legal ramifications. Simultaneously, the Beach Police Department launched a full-scale investigation into the child's living conditions and the circumstances surrounding his neglect. Initial inquiries revealed disturbing details about the child's guardians, his parents, who were nowhere to be found at the time of the incident. "We were shocked by what we found," Sergeant Johnson remarked during a press briefing. "The conditions inside that house were deplorable. No child should have to live like that." Investigators combed through the residence, documenting evidence of neglect and unsanitary conditions. They found spoiled food, piles of unwashed dishes, and signs that the child's basic needs had been neglected for an extended period. The investigation revealed a pattern of neglect, suggesting that the child had been routinely left alone in hazardous conditions. Legal proceedings swiftly followed, with law enforcement officials pursuing charges against the child's guardians for endangering his welfare. The parents, identified as Tyler and Lisa Johnson, were located and taken into custody pending further investigation and formal charges. District Attorney Rebecca Martinez, overseeing the case, expressed her dismay at the circumstances. "This is a clear case of child neglect. We will ensure that those responsible are held accountable for their actions, or lack thereof, that endangered this child's life." Child Protective Services involvement. Concurrently, Child Protective Services, CPS, became involved to ensure the child's immediate and long-term safety. CPS workers, trained to handle such distressing cases, conducted their own assessment to determine the best course of action for the child's future. "The goal is to provide a safe and nurturing environment for the child," stated CPS spokesperson Sarah Thompson. "Our priority is his well-being and ensuring that he receives the care and support he needs to recover from this ordeal." CPS facilitated the child's placement in temporary foster care, pending further legal proceedings and a comprehensive evaluation of his parents' fitness to regain custody. The agency also provided support services to address the child's physical and emotional needs resulting from his traumatic experience. Community reaction and support. News of the neglected child spread quickly throughout the community, eliciting a mixture of shock, outrage, and concern. Neighbors who had witnessed the child's distress expressed disbelief that such neglect could occur unnoticed for so long. "I saw the child sometimes, but I didn't realize how bad things were for him," remarked Mrs. Jenkins, a neighbor. "It breaks my heart to think of what he must have gone through alone in that house." Community leaders and child advocacy groups rallied around the case, calling for justice and stricter measures to protect vulnerable children. Vigils were held in support of the child, emphasizing the need for vigilance and prompt reporting of suspected child neglect or abuse. Local officials vowed to review existing child welfare policies and strengthen community outreach efforts to prevent similar tragedies in the future. The case underscored the importance of community involvement in safeguarding children's rights and ensuring their safety. Legal and long-term implications. As legal proceedings continued, public scrutiny intensified regarding the adequacy of child protection laws and the role of social services in preventing cases of neglect. Advocates called for reforms to improve oversight and support systems for at-risk children, emphasizing early intervention and comprehensive family support services. District Attorney Martinez addressed these concerns during a press conference. "We need to do better as a community to protect our children. This case highlights the consequences of failing to intervene early when signs of neglect are present." The child's future remained uncertain as the legal process unfolded. Court hearings were scheduled to determine custody arrangements and the parents' suitability to regain custody, contingent upon their compliance with court-ordered interventions and rehabilitation efforts. Lessons learned and moving forward. In conclusion, the discovery of the neglected child by Beach Police Department officers on April 22, 2023, serves as a sobering reminder of society's obligations to protect its most vulnerable members. The incident underscored the critical roles of law enforcement, emergency responders, and community members in safeguarding children's welfare and holding negligent caregivers accountable. As the legal proceedings continued and the child received the care and support he deserved, the case remained a poignant example of the consequences of parental neglect and the resilience of communities in advocating for children's rights. It called for ongoing efforts to strengthen child protection systems, raise awareness about neglect and abuse, and promote a culture of responsibility and compassion towards all children. The neglected child's story is a call to action, a reminder that every child deserves a safe and nurturing environment in which to thrive. It is a testament to the importance of community vigilance, prompt reporting, and decisive action to prevent similar tragedies from occurring. By learning from this case and implementing necessary reforms, society can better protect its most vulnerable members and ensure that every child grows up in a loving and supportive environment.